You don't give a fuck when you land or not, just let him go. Don't worry about it, he gonna be a shitty fight, but you gotta let punches go. Last round. You can't wait until they get, if you miss it, bang, go right back. And don't take 30 seconds to start another punch.
Alexander, I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody closer. I'm Sonny Liston, I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable.
Look at that. Look at that combination. And the two.
I kept telling him he had no punch, he couldn't hit, he's swinging like a sissy, he's missing, let me see your box. I hadn't started dancing yet. A tremendous motivational first round, and Hearns gets hurt. Hearns got stunned. Acko was stunned early in the round. Great first round. Incredible. Perhaps one of the best in middleweight history.
That black guy, he hits hard.
Fire!
Mike be wilding the fuck out.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Hands of Fire Boxing Talk. I'm your host, George Dampier, writer and reporter for RealCombatMedia.com, and I'm joined by my co-host, fighting out of Philly.
You already know, man. Daoud, man. 215, let's talk some boxing, man.
Bro, we got a lot to talk about. I mean, we got the preview of Ward vs. Kovalev that's going down this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Garcia had a nice little homecoming event in Philly this past Saturday, along with Luis Ortiz, who it seems to be buzzing on the internet that he got exposed. So we're going to break into that. But first things first, we're going to lead off with, I'm probably going to go with the more heavily watched fight, which was Danny Garcia versus Vargas. Was it Sammy Vargas, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
I almost didn't know who the hell he fought.
It was a stay busy fight, man. It was non-title.
It wasn't, and honestly, I think the best fight to really, if you were actually looking for a good fight, you probably should have came early, because Jojo Dan, is it Jojo Dan? Also was a fight that I was at, because I was actually surprised that Jared Hurd, not that he had difficulty, but I mean it was a fight. Hurd did what he had to do, but it was a bit more of a fight than I had anticipated, and it actually ended up being pretty good performance for Hurd.
Hurd climbing the ranks, and Jojo Dan, he been around for a little while, so I'm never surprised when a guy that's been there gives a bit of a problem to a young guy that's on his way up. So props and shout outs to Hurd, man. It was a fight, and maybe some people did have it in their mind that it wouldn't be a fight, but like I said, I'm not surprised. I felt like Fortuna and Douglas, the ones that really tore it up. They tore it up big time, and a little bit of bias, because I had a cousin foot on the card, but he was non-televised. Antonio DeBosi, he suffered a loss, but man, I ain't feel like he lost. I watched the fight a couple times, but he my relative, so
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? People might take it with a grain of salt, whatever. But I just felt like I ain't feel like Tone lost, but he be back.
Yeah,
And Danny, he did what he was supposed to do. He seemed sharp in the beginning. His punches was crisp. He was landing them. They said it looked like, he was punching like hard. So it's looking like he's growing into the weight class nicely. He didn't seem that quick. And in reference to Thurman, I think he had to be a little bit faster. And I think Thurman would push for a more up-paced fight than what we was able to get out of Vargas. But nonetheless, he didn't look bad, and he did stop him. And the little argument and stuff they had after the fight, it made you feel good about Danny and his confidence level going into this fight. And this was like a stay busy fight against a so-so guy. Cause Danny, he took the year off. He just had a child, whatever. He took the year off. Basically, you don't just jump into a fight with a guy like Thurman, especially him coming off of that win with Porter. You want to at least fight somebody and get your senses back flowing. On all cylinders. So, not a bad performance. I would have loved to have seen him use the jab more and stuff like that. In terms of looking at in preparation for Thurman, but besides that, I didn't have anything negative to say about it. He didn't have any trouble or anything like that.
Oh yeah, he did. Well, I don't think anything that Sammy Vargas really gave him anything to really worry about. I think the only thing that actually slightly made things interesting was the right hand he decided to try to leap and try to land.
Right.
That seemed to be the only punch with velocity that Vargas actually had. It's funny. I was watching with a friend of mine who, he likes to be optimistic. He just was certain he already knew that Garcia was the favorite.
Right. But
he always likes to see the uptick on the guy who's supposed to just come in and take the L.
Right.
And he tried to go along with it. The bell rang about 30 seconds in. He's like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen." That's I mean the level of just skill was totally evident, and it was definitely evident from the beginning that it was going to be just a simple tune-up fight.
Easy work.
Just easy work.
Go ahead on and say it.
I mean, I'm trying not to disrespect the guy.
No,
I'm trying to be a nice guy here.
It was easy work. Shout out to the guy because he had Sammy. He had heart and courage. He stepped up. He was a man, and I respect a man with two hands to set foot in the boxing ring. But he was easy work.
Definitely easy work. But I wanted actually the thing I took out of this fight was really just the atmosphere and just the whole collective event. I mean, it was good to see Allen Iverson and
Meek, Iverson and Meek
Mills
it was like a real
walk him
Philly
out.
out event.
I mean, yeah, it was like a good Philly feeling, and that's what. Even though I can't stand the Philly fans of just about everything, Sixers, Flyers, Eagles, I hate all of you with a passion, and I hope all the bad things in life happen to you and only you. But it was just good to see, because, I mean, I'm local, and that's why I have the hate for the people that I do.
Right.
But it's just good to see Fight City back, you know what I mean? Like the quintessential fight town. I mean, the quintessential fight Philly fighter is more of a folklore now because we don't really have that many. And that's what I mean. We were talking earlier about what type of style would you claim Danny Garcia? Like, is he a Philly fighter? And does he fit the definition? I told him, he's really more of a fighter from Philly. But we could talk about that later on. But for me, it was really just good to see the city collectively gathering around the guy. For me, the certain accolades are maybe a bit premature. Oh well. But again, it's just good to see the Fight City back and just vibrant. It's just good to see people feeling good about the fight. You know what I mean? And
what it is. The issue is that he couldn't really get a good fighter because we have same-day weigh-ins in Pennsylvania. So the odds of him being able to bring a fight home and it being like a real good opponent is slim to none. I mean, because you taking away a guy's ability to like rehydrate the way he wants to, and in this day and age in boxing, ain't nobody trying to subject themselves to that. None of the guys, up towards the top. So in order for a guy to fight here in the hometown, and he's not like a big fighter, like a heavyweight, it's going to be hard. You know what I'm saying? Even for guys like Tevin Farmer and like that, because he's still fighting here. But the fights he getting, they're not on the level of the opponents that Danny Garcia can attract. So with that being said, as Tevin gets better and as he continues to win, because I actually think he's the best fighter in the city at this point, as he continues to win, in a minute, we ain't going to be able to see him here either. Probably going to have to see him in Jersey or New York.
Hey, man, and I'm perfectly fine seeing him in Jersey. Mm-hmm. I ain't got to drive that far. Well, depending where it is, actually, because,
right.
As long as it stays South Jersey, I'm cool. But I guess to touch last things up, I guess we really to look at the prospect of a Garcia Thurman fight, who Thurman was ringside watching this fight. And was actually what I was really actually impressed about the fact that he was ringside there, because that's kind of a lineage thing in boxing now. It seems to be since the 70s, of having the guy that's next in line to fight the guy commentate the fight ringside. I love that. Sugar Ray Leonard and Hagler and among others, and was actually a pretty objective, wasn't really too biased, was, pretty giving some sound advice to Danny.
No, it was kind of fair. Thurman is a very articulate guy for a fighter.
Oh, very. Very articulate. He represents himself very well. He seems like almost one of those Bernard Hopkins type personalities, who seems that he could probably get along well without any type of promotion team or management,
Right.
Like, I get that feeling off of Thurman.
Right.
But, they had a nice little spicy interaction, post-fight interview. Thurman came up. They got a little trash talking back and forth. He said, I ain't no cherry. The cherry season's over.
Then he told him, you is a cherry because I picked you next.
and immediately after that happened, I'm glad you mentioned that. Immediately after he did that, I saw him turn around and he winked at the younger Watson brother. Which kind of just breaks it all down to a capsule for what I always, my interpretation of Danny. You know what I mean? It's like he does the commercial shit really well. You know what I mean? Like it's like he does, like, he knows how to be a star, but it's like out of that same cookie cutter 80s style. Like, I know he's like, yeah, you are the cherry, da 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 da, like, just yelled at him like he was tense. Turned around, smiled, looked at Watson, and like gave him a wink.
Because Danny, like, if you ever been, like, I've been around him a couple times. Like, he's a real cool dude. Like, if you notice, like, most of the trash talk that comes out of the camp, it's usually Angel.
Yeah, it's Angel. He can't. Yeah,
like, about the fight. Like, when he's about to fight, then he'll say a little bit of something. But other than that, he's like a calm, resolved guy. Like, Danny's a cool-ass person and shit. Like, you go in the gym, he'll just, like, be in there watching kids spar and all that, man. Just, like, and he's not, like, really talking and shit. And then, like, you walk up to him, or a kid walks up to him, he just, like, quickly gives him a picture, talk to him, sign, whatever. He's like a real cool guy, man. I think, like, he actually has to put himself a little bit out of character even to get with you.
And that's what I'm saying. It looks like it's almost like a slightly uncomfortable thing for him. So I would try to, if I were him, and let's say he does win this Thurman fight, it brings me right back to what makes me, like, so frustrated about him. Other than the fact that he fights, pretty damn mediocre. Like, I try to bring up the fact that I don't think there's anything he does exceptionally well. He's just a very solid fighter.
He's not bad at nothing either. The only thing he bad at is when people come to him with continuous movement. It's not easy for him to always stay in front of him. But other than that, he doesn't do nothing bad either.
Yeah, but I guess something about Danny, man, it just cuts at me. It's just not just a fight, the fighting style. It's the persona. But like you said, like, to a personal level, I know he's a cool dude because I haven't interacted with him personally, but I've been around people that have, and it's funny because I feel like I actually have been around them because I have a friend of mine that that's a barber. He does a lot of expo stuff. And he was like, FaceTiming me when he was with Danny Garcia, over at his, barber shop. When I guess they had a little event over there last year. So, I mean, just about every circle, if you're not near the Philly area, if you're not, in the music, entertainment, or athletic business, you're probably around him at a sense.
Right.
And so you kind of know. So I know he's a cool dude in that aspect. It's just like a certain fakeness that I wish he would, like, just brush it up, man. Like, you don't got a front for me. Like, I don't need the act.
You know what? I don't even think he be fronting though. I think he just, like, I think that sometimes people expect a certain personality out of fighters or whatever, what have you. Sometimes, and then sometimes it's just not there. He's like I've heard stories about him and stuff. Like like people around the city, other guys I know, guys that tell me like, "Yo, I beat this Joker before, and he came back and he beat me." And everybody who beat him, he usually comes back and he beats him. That's what he was doing on the insides here in the city. And as an amateur, like Danny had like a nice career. Like he fought Bud in the amateurs and all that. They split each other. He beat Bud one time. Bud beat him. You see what I'm saying? So like when you look at it, basically what I'm trying to tell you is Danny is a better boxer and a better fighter than a lot of people like to give him credit for. They like to call him Cherry Garcia, whatever. Or if you want to bring up the Peterson fight or the Herrera fight, yeah, okay, whatever. But at the same time, man, you can't get where he got and do the things that he did if he didn't have skill. Like I said, man, my thing, I'm a Danny fan. I wish he used the jab more. But Danny's a solid fighter. And when you stop and stand in front of him, he becomes a good boxer, like, man, in a funny type of way. So, this fight between him and Thurman, it's closer than what I hear people say. That's what I want to say. If someone asked me who was the best welterweight today out of the young Lions, I would probably pick Thurman. That's why this is a very big fight for Danny. But it is winnable. You know what I'm saying?
And it brings me back to my point, and I think I've made this on this podcast before, is that if I'm a number one contender in any of the sanctioning bodies, or I'm a champion, I'm looking for Danny Garcia.
Right. And that's what they all seem to be doing when you pay attention to what they say out their mouth, right?
Right.
You even got Bud. Bud said he not leaving 140 until he unified, but he said he want to fight Danny Garcia, and him and Danny and Angel and them got a war of words going back.
Boy, do they got it. They got an
everybody
epic little
seems
beef
to want to fight
on.
Danny. That's the way it is.
It's funny, man. I mean, I've never seen Crawford go to the lengths that he's gone to actually respond and to go back and forth with someone. I mean, I got the picture right here saved on my phone, honestly, of the tweet he had of, was it Angel Garcia on like refaced on Scarface cover, like the movie called Coke Face. Whew. I mean,
yeah, because he was talking about Bud. He said Bud was at the JOs. He said Bud was at the JOs and his head was peasy and all that. He's like, "What you doing there? Your head was peasy and shit."
Oh
like,
my God! Yeah.
It was funny. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, they getting it in. Like, that's it. I can't wait for that fight to finally occur because, like,
2018, 19.
Yeah,
that's one of those fighters.
That fight gotta happen because they just arguing too much. It's like, you know what I mean? That joint got time to marinate a little bit.
Well, speaking of things that have time to marinate, and I would probably say maybe a lesser of a time to marinate. Luis Ortiz, who is a pretty dominant figure in the heavyweight division right now, squared off against Malik Scott this past Saturday on HBO over in Monaco, which I can't tell is either in France or maybe some other independent country or nation. I do know Monaco is a city in Egypt. And,
no, they wasn't.
Or is it in Cambodia? Country? But I know they weren't. Yeah, they weren't over there. They were speaking French though.
Right.
So they got to be around that region.
Okay.
And you know what's funny? They fight in this place. What was it in Monaco? Golovkin fought Murray there. Is it me, or does that place look like it only fills up about 200 people?
You know what? I don't have I don't even know, man. Like, it's just like, I don't know. He signed to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn got dudes fighting all over the world or whatever, and I'm just like, I was just happy to see Ortiz like back in the ring real fast.
I know. I know. I just went off the thing, but it was just
okay.
Just like off the bat, every time they have these fights over in Monaco, it looks like some jazz place that they're doing these fights at. Like it doesn't have a really a high volume for audience. It looks like it maybe can fit about maybe 200 people max, like a ballroom or something. But considering the fights these gets major fights though, so like I'm not. Are there fans that I can't see? I don't know.
Maybe that's the atmosphere that they desire for world class fights. It's another place.
Well, I know there's a lot of darkness and Christmas lights. That's all I know.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe that's the atmosphere. That's just the way they like it. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, anyways, we're besides the point. We're getting too far along with specifics, but overall, the thing to judge here was Luis Ortiz going the full 12 rounds with Malik Scott, fighter out of Philadelphia, someone you're very familiar with. A lot of people saw this fight, and by the way, Luis Ortiz did come out the winner, unanimous decision. I believe 2 judges had him winning every round. Had to be a generous round to find one that gives Malik Scott. But obviously the thing to note here, and even if you didn't see the fight, the newsworthy thing that you probably heard me just say was the fact that it went 12 rounds.
Right.
And if you heard me say that, you're probably thinking, well, gee, what type of fight was it? Well,
not me.
Malik Scott, well, yeah, you know. Probably for you, no. But for those who didn't watch, Malik Scott had a game plan. And his game
plan was to survive, man. He went in there not to get knocked out. And he may have, understand what I'm saying, he may have the best feet in the heavyweight division. Now, whether you want to talk about Malik's heart or his resilience or his will to win in that fight or the fight against Wilder, whatever. You can criticize a lot of things about Malik, but you look at Malik, you look at his size and his build and the way he moves around in the ring. You have a guy like that, if he's deciding that, I don't want to get knocked out, if he's fighting against any like smart boxer, it's going to be hard for the smart boxer to knock him out. So because I watched that fight, I'm not confused as to why Malik made it 12. I know exactly why he made it 12, because that was what he set out to do.
Well, if you're a casual fan or maybe just a staunch Ortiz fighter and just don't know who the hell he's fighting,
okay,
then I'll apply that. But let's just talk about the fight overall. I mean, clearly, the first round, he had no intentions of throwing a punch or doing anything. Right. I think it was obviously a clear feel-out round. What's his power like? Can I hang with this? And a few times, I guess had to been up to the second round where, there was a few times where Scott was falling down off punches that really didn't land, but Max Kellerman kind of said that it seems like he was predetermining when it was a good time to fall down. And it's funny because I was actually thinking the same thing to myself. It's like, oh God, don't let it be one of these fights where he's waiting for a punch to fall on the side of his head so he can just clearly and I hate to do it because I know this guy personally, but basically to Bruce Seldon it, you know what I mean? Sell the shit out of anything that grazingly slips by and then just goes down.
Yeah, looking for your way out.
Yeah. And it looked like it was going toward that in about the third round. When he did get knocked down, he was complaining about a shot that landed on the back of his head. It was clear that it didn't. Then the second knockdown came around. I believe that was the fifth. Talking about the same thing. But when he got up, I don't know if it was the talk, but for me, it seemed immediately after he got up. It seemed like, well, you know what? And the crowd was booing. The crowd was booing when he was down because they knew very damn well what the hell was going on. And it was like, oh hell no, we did not wait all of this time just to see this shit. And Ortiz is a very demanding product over there right now because he's with Matchroom. He's got people to impress right now.
Right.
And fans included. So they're hearing his name and they want to see some fireworks.
Right.
But it was around I'd say after that knockdown in the 5th round that Malik Scott determined that, you know what, I'm going to stick this shit through. I mean, it's not going to be pretty, but I'm gonna hang around.
Yeah.
And even though he didn't do clearly enough to win the fight, he definitely had himself, a respectable presence to where Ortiz, honestly, and people, now we're going to get into the topic of exposure, because this is where I want to break things down. And it's funny because the perspectives that me and you have on this are different, even though we come from a place where you would expect us to be the opposite.
Right.
Now, me, I'm a very staunch supporter, and I firmly believe that Luis Ortiz is one of the best heavyweights, is the best heavyweight out there right now. I feel like he can beat everybody stylistically. Like I would pick him over AJ, Vlad, Fury, and Wilder. I pick him over those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what concerned me in this fight wasn't the fact that Malik Scott was getting away. He was fleet of foot. I understand that. Actually, it was from the first round that I was already noticing Luis Ortiz's ability to cut off the ring. Like, I loved how he was so squared in the ring that every ring post he was in range of.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately, right off the bat. And then there was a conversation around the commentary where they were talking about whether or not he would get frustrated along the way. And I didn't think much of that. But further along the way, there was just things that were like the times he did and was able to corner Malik Scott, the punch variety and the punch choice, the punch selection. Why are you doubling up on a right hand that was already parried over, which he's ducking down, and you're going to throw it again, knowing that's not going to land? I don't know if it was whether he was just forcing the action or trying to demand a punch or just hoping something would come through, but that's the resolve actually where I think he might have gotten exposed. Because for me, what I thought he would do better with every other heavyweight fighter is the fact that he could fight good in the pocket. Like, I thought he'd be able to have a nice punch selection where he could still open a guy up.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that. I didn't see that Saturday. And for me, that was like a blow. I was like, shit. What? Like, that's what I had banking on him. And that's why when people say, well, it's a mobile fighter, you're not going to look good against mobile fighters that aren't trying to fight or not trying to get engaged. I get all that. And I've seen other fighters that were able to take care of that business. But on top of that, there was, like I said, the punch selection and the punch output. And, it's not like Scott was running the entire time. There was times where he was able to get several opportunities, about 3 to 4 times, actually 4 to 5 times around where he did get Scott cornered and still couldn't land anything definitive.
Yeah, because that's like I said before, when you got a guy that approaches like all his situations scientifically, it's like they have a problem knocking out a guy that's trying to survive. That's just a boxing equation I've come to observe throughout my time around the sport and just watching as a fan, whatever, man. Like I said, Malik, he had went in there, and it seems like, to me, it seemed like he set out after that knockdown to like survive without getting knocked out, and that's what he did. He basically just played the escape game. And if you're not like a pure seek and destroy guy, you're probably not gonna knock out nobody that's like that on this level. And then like I said, people look at Malik and they say this and that, but at the end of the day, Malik does have like a pretty good footwork, so I see how it was hard to catch him. So, What happened happened. And my thing is, if Ortiz was exposed or whatever, if that's how people feel about it, then maybe somebody should be ready to fight his ass.
Hey,
You know?
and
Maybe he should be able to get a dance partner now. I love to see one of these guys take the fight the same way with Wilder. People say, "Oh, Wilder's this, he's wild. He threw these. He's not a great boxer at all. Oh, he ain't got nothing but a jab. Oh, he's this, he's that. He throws wild hooks." Okay, but every time you put his name next to Fury or AJ or anybody, it's always an excuse, and they're always doing something. Oh, AJ doesn't need to fight him. AJ needs to fight Parker.
well, that's on the
Fury has to walk his dog.
that's
it's all this shit.
that's on the sake of AJ, and I think clearly not now, obviously with Deontay's injury, but I know those two are on a collision course that I think really defines this division. In honesty, I think now with the performance I just saw of Ortiz, I think that's kind of the fight of the division at the moment is Wilder and AJ. Because and clearly, Fury wasn't going to be part of the conversation. He seems to be tangled up with first Vlad problems and then actual problems, like real life problems. So he's kind of has that to work out with. So, if he's walking his dog, I'm actually okay with that. So if that means he's doing something functionally right, so I'm fine with that.
No, I'm just saying, period. Before you had these issues just now, every time you brought up Tyson Fury in terms of a Deontay Wilder fight or any of those other guys, the quote-unquote guys that are good, there's always a reason why they can't fight Deontay Wilder, but then the same people who have reasons and so on and so forth why they can't fight, they're quick to tell you how these guys are so much better than Wilder and Wilder can't beat them. My thing is, then fight him then. That's my thing. Fight him.
Well, I mean, I hope they do, man, because at least with the case with Ortiz, and I think if for any of those guys that watched this fight, HBO did do a broadcast of this fight, and also, of course, I believe it was Box Nation that did a broadcast of the fight as well. If you watch the Box Nation telecast, then they were mentioning, along with the heavyweight division, basically they were just putting the whole heavyweight division in perspective and who's fighting who's in line to fight the next guy. And there was a part where they had Anthony Joshua talk about a possible fight with Luis Ortiz, and basically I guess he was just being interviewed or questioned on his upcoming fight, because this was kind of a little soundbite into his fight. This is literally just before the fighters walked out. They showed this bit, and Anthony Joshua seemed to be totally aware that he was on his radar. He said as soon as he signed with Frank Warren, he knew that, okay, well, now I have to start looking at this guy. This guy's probably not an imminent threat, but an imminent opponent. Clearly he's probably going to be next, at least within the next two opponents. So he's definitely ready and been keeping his eye on him. So I don't see... of the biggest fights of the heavyweight division to start so far, I think that's probably the first one to take place right there. And again, maybe that could be the defining fight of the heavyweight division. I know I just said AJ versus Wilder could be the defining one, but clearly that would only matter if AJ could beat Luis Ortiz. And after this fight, I did favor Ortiz over AJ slightly, but now that I watch this, I mean, see, and what sucks the most is that I am an AJ fan, so that might be kind of diluting a bit of my thought process a little bit, or maybe thinking more of him than what really is. But if I can try to be with taking all of that out of mind, I'm seeing now AJ maybe being more competitive in that fight than I did before. Let's just say that. I won't say he wins yet, but it's a very close fight.
You know something about it? I don't know until AJ fights somebody good. I don't know. I seen Wilder fight Sterving, who is pretty good. I seen Ortiz. He fought Jennings, pretty good. Martin, to me, hadn't really proved anything. He was like the beneficiary of like a crazy, unfortunate, weird situation. And I think what was that guy's name that Martin was fighting who his knee popped out?
It was a Russian guy. Yeah, I
forgot his name though, but I saw him fight a couple times, and his name is not coming to me right now offhand. But for real, if his knee wouldn't have popped out, I had him beating Martin anyway.
I actually did too.
You know what I'm saying?
I did
Martin
too.
just got the belt. And then it just was like right there for AJ to let's like basically cherry pick it. Like, you see what I'm saying? But you can't cherry pick a belt, so it's not cherry picking. But understand what I'm saying. Martin was never a true heavyweight champ caliber type of guy or anything. So like, with that being said, I don't even know about him yet as much as I like him.
Damn.
You see what I'm saying? I like him, but I don't know.
Hey, well, I guess the jury.
What I mean by that is it must be proven. That's the same way I tell you I don't know about GGG.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was just about to say. The jury's still out on it, apparently. But I guess that's going to be it for right now. We're just going to... I guess we're just going to make that whole Kovalev War thing a special of its own immediately after this.
Yeah, we come right back to that because that fight's this weekend. I can't wait.
All right, well, we're going to tune out right now. Be on tune for this Kovalev War podcast coming up right after. Peace.
Peace.